Welcome back. This is a best of 5 from the Ting Season 4 semifinals hosted by Base Trade TV, who are kind enough to send out those replay packs, and I have 2 names, one you might know and one you should. First, in the bottom line, the Zerg player from South Korea on Team Dead Pixels. It is Pimpact. And in the top left, the American Protoss, a triple WCS champion from Team Ting. It is Neeb. Alright. It is Protoss versus Zerg. This is a best of 5. There's money on the line, and a lot of it. This is from, I believe, the semifinals. Yeah, you do think about, if you have one of those mines, D-Pix as the clan tag. I mean, what are you supposed to put there if your team name is Dead Pixels? But D-Pix should team up with Team Pornhub. Or YouPorn, was it? I don't know. Pick one. But there is going to be a pull first with a gas as well as Impact going for potential early aggression. This will force Neeb to play a little bit more defensive. The fact there's no hatchery here already tells Neeb all he needs to know. All he needs to know. So, PvZ really does come down to the early game. With this potential pressure, there are a lot of different angles Neeb is going to need to defend. Now, he's not building a wall right off the bat. He knows there's no threat immediately because the hatchery is on the way. And he sees the gas geyser, knows there's not going to be speed or quick roaches or something like that. So it's on Neeb to get his infrastructure up to make sure he's locked down all the potential angles of attack. Impact, this is not so much a an all-in or some sort of cheese attack. It's mostly defensive. So that way, any sort of shield battery pushes, he can take his third base safely, especially when it's scouted pretty early. You're not really looking to end the game. You're just looking to make sure you get into a reasonable position as time goes on. On the other side, Neeb has a lot of options open to him. He has, well, he's going to be going to 3 out of 3 in gas. We should see either another gate, and may I be so bold as to think a Stargate, as Neeb is a huge fan of the Stargate play. There you go. And with the Chrono Boost, you can really bust out Stargate units very quickly if you decide to bank it up. He is using the Chrono on the probe so far. No walling created because Neeb was able to scout how many Zerglings are coming out. He knows Impact was... He knows he was scouted. There's really no point in making a bunch of Zerglings. Neeb would be on top of that. But the Adept will actually be able to block out these Zerglings, and there will not be a scout out of Impact. So this Stargate, while it might be prepared for, it is going to go unscouted up until it builds its first units. So it should be an Oracle to start here. And the question is, do you take a third base off the back of it? Or do you go for some sort of follow-up attack? Usually, the customary play, use the Oracles to secure a third if he decides to make a lot of Zerglings, or to pressure him if you don't. Or if he doesn't, rather. Just the existence of the Oracle makes Impact respond in a certain way. He needs Spore Crawlers, he needs Queens. He can't just make a bunch of Zerglings without sacrificing some economy at home. So it does look like Neeb not adding on any other tech behind this, just a single Phoenix as well to take out the Overlords. It's kind of like making a Viking. It's a great move. A third gate on the way, but still no real indication of Neeb following this up with anything dramatic yet. Now, a couple Adepts on the other side of the map not only will push the Zerglings back, but force the creation of several more of them. And remember, he has the Oracle. If the Zerglings try to get us around, he can just burn them down. Now, what's the play out of Neeb? This is around the time. He has another Oracle in production, but Impact did make a lot of these Zerglings. He doesn't want to risk losing them to the Oracle. But that's a lot of drones that Impact could have made, that instead he's invested in an army. So right now we're looking at 38 workers for Neeb to just 33 for Impact, but there is no third base as of yet, and that is the big advantage. Another Oracle tries to come into the main base. The Queens will drive it away. The Spore Crawler is already done, and the lair coming up. It's all about that third now. Warp Gate was not chronoed, so it will take... Well, he won't be able to warp in around a units for a little while. The Lings are already in position to potentially stop this third from coming up. He will use one of the Oracles of Energy. Will use the second. Yes, he will. He has plenty of energy on that one. And the probe just sees the Adepts die horribly and decides, Well, that's good for me. And starts his third. Now is the big choice out of Impact. How many drones do you make? Or is he going to go for some sort of like 50, 55 drone Hydralisk pressure, or is he just going to play defensive? Is he going to hold back, make sure Neeb can't pressure him, and go up to 70 drones and get all his tech? Because if you let the Protoss go for too long, they have a lot of options for timings. Whether it comes to the first Twilight Council upgrades finishing, literally just moving out with 7 Adepts that he warped in. So how far does Impact go, and how greedy does he become? There are more Lings on the way. These Adepts do not have glaives, but there are enough of them. The shield battery makes probes into fighting units. As we can see here, looks like 1 probe will actually fall, a little bit out of range. 2 probes go down. The Adepts will shade through. Won't complete, but wait until the last second. He isolates the Queens, and is going to be able to assassinate them with the Pulsar Beams. 9 Hydralisks are on the way, but Neeb is already cutting through. Not quite able to pick up that last Queen, but drones are starting to fall, and he doesn't really have any to spare. It's 51 to 49. He has to be very careful here. Hydralisk dying. He needs a critical mass of Hydralisk to be able to attack. If you only have a handful, the Adepts can just shade on top. But it looks like Neeb is going to give some of these Adepts away. He shaded directly into the main, but it looks like almost none of the Adepts are going to make it out. A single one will eventually be tracked down. And Impact, he's at 49 drones and doesn't show any signs of making any more. It looks like he's going to be building up. Once the Hydralisks have that speed range, the muscular augments, he's going to go. He knows right now with this many Oracles, with this third base timing, and especially now that he's gotten a Ling into the main, how did this even happen? The Twilight Council just finishing up, the gates just being added on, the Forge has no upgrades yet, so there's a window here. There's a window where Impact can attack before there are Archons, before there are Immortals, before there are too many Adepts, before there are Glaives. And if Neeb can't hold on to his third base here, that's pretty much the game. There are some Stasis Wards out there. There's a lot of defenses, a lot of shield batteries strewn around. He has them in the back because they have such long range. He doesn't want them to get in the way. Impact is most definitely going all in. It's now 61 probes to 49 drones. Some of this is scouted out. Looks like he picked off one of the Oracles. He's down to 4. He no longer has that just fuck you amount of Oracles. And he wasn't intending on it in the first place. The Stasis Wards have been cleared up by Zerglings. Impact knew that was a real threat. Here come the Hydras. 75 army supply to 46. Several Stasis Wards. If he catches even more than 2 or 3 Hydras with one of these, that could just isolate enough of the army it can be sliced to pieces. Alright. Impact needs to do damage with this attack. He has drones on the way. He has to at least try to get the third. Some sentries being taken out. The shield batteries help, but the DPS of the Hydras is very high. More sentries being warped in. He's trying to cut off parts of this army. The shield battery has been drained on energy. The Oracles are on the way back. There are a lot of Lings here. The Hydras are well spread out, and a lot of these units from Neeb have little to no range. Impact is pushing in with the biggest army he's going to see most of this game. The Oracles come up, will be targeted down. There are only a couple left. The shield battery's trying to hold. The probes are pulled into the fight. Some force fields in the back not doing too much to cut down on this Hydralisk force. Even the Phoenix coming up, going to pick up a single Hydra, trying to make a difference. The Immortals are holding strong. The barriers are triggered. Another Immortal goes down. Another barrier will allow it to live. The Zealot's being warped in directly on top, tanking the damage. He's juggling the Immortals. The Hydra count is thinning out. And Impact will be driven back, but at what cost? He killed 21 probes. He killed all the Oracles. He killed all the sentries. Only the Immortals, the backbone of the Protoss, will hold on. But at the same time, Neeb is still at 56 workers. He still has his third. And he still has these Immortals, and +2 is on the way. There's the Templar Archives as well for Archons, but a Spire has completed. Will Impact be adding on those Mutalisks? Now, Mutas don't directly counter Archons. There aren't any Phoenixes left. So Neeb, he's actually going to struggle. While he might have the army to deal with them, getting it into position, he doesn't have cannons, he has no shield batteries in the main. But he's going to be very quickly building up potentially a death push. Which means this investment of 800 in the Mutalisks on top of the Spire, 1,000 minerals and 1,000 gas. If they don't hold Neeb back for long enough, Impact's just going to get run over. Alright. The mutas are trying to fly in. They can't fight this army. Even if they're a handful of stalkers, their DPS is wasted. I guess he realizes Neeb is moving out. He needs everything he can get. If he has Lings, if he has Hydras, Baneling speed is on the way, but it's not nearly finished. But there are no Archons with this. Without the Archons, dealing with the Banelings is actually very difficult. Neeb could be walking into a sticky situation here. As going down on onto this fourth base, Impact didn't drone up very hard. Good force fields, but he doesn't have a third. He's cut off some of the Hydralisks. The Mutas are in the main at the same time. Some Stalkers have been warped in. They do not have Blink. The Mutas will win the fight, but by how much? Will the recall come out? He uses the recall. The distance is being closed, but he's not going to be able to catch the army before it gets out of there. The Mutas did win the fight. More Stalkers will be warped in. Probes have fallen. A single Muta is doing essentially nothing because shield batteries. And now Impact is on the offensive. He lost his fourth base. He has the army supply, but Archons have been warped in. Are there any High Templar? There are no High Templar for Storm, so he has no easy way to get rid of all those rolling Banelings. But once again, Impact has to do damage. He has to do something. Because if you don't have a fourth, if you don't have upgrades, if you're up against someone who's building up Templar and Archons and Immortals, you are running out of time. Yeah, the charge lots come out. There's only a single Archon now. He needs more. The Banelings are going to roll through. If he gets rid of the Zealots, the Hydralisks can close on the Immortals. And Archon, fun fact, shield batteries don't heal a morphing Archon. I didn't know that. But here comes Impact. 84 to 67 supply. The Banelings come in. He pulls back some of the Zealots. Most of the Banelings are wasted on the Archons, but the Archons themselves have been wasted as well. The Mutas are in the net killing probes. Neeb is down 58 versus 59, and remember, Impact is getting a fourth behind this GG. He did enough damage. He was losing too many probes. Neeb didn't quite have the backbone. He didn't have enough Archons. If he had a couple Storms, it could have made the difference. But instead, as we come into that last fight, I think the call for Neeb would have been to just give up this base and make sure, like, 2 or 3 more Archons, and I think the fight goes the other way. But Neeb, a little bit too greedy. He took a little bit too poor of a fight. And Impact will finish it in time. Alright. Gotta load up the next one. A neon violet square. Thank you, radioactive tea. Well, that's and also, Epinai, welcome back. Update the score. Alright. We're back to the Ting semifinals hosted by Base Trade TV. You can watch, of course, many tournaments live on their channel, and if you subscribe, you get replays to essentially steal content like I'm doing right now. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Alright. Taking a look at how Neeb actually losing that last game. I felt if he just had sat back and built up... Archons are such a good unit. Archons are so good. But Neeb just a little bit slow on taking the third originally, and then not really focusing on getting the Archons out in a timely manner, was eventually overrun by Patience. Nope, not Patience. Why did I think Patience for some reason? I have no idea. Oh, he's also on Dead Pixels, or he was, or maybe he still is. I'm not 100% sure. But it's Impact we're talking about here, up 1-0. It is a best of 5, first to 3, and the winner moves on to the finals. Alright. Neeb going for a greedier. We are on Neon Violet Square, which is one of the largest maps, the longest rush distance, and the most defensible base if you actually scout your opponent going for any sort of early cheese. You do also have access to a back base here, but it isn't very often taken unless you're in a desperate situation because it only has access to 4 mineral patches, so you get half the mineral income. You still have access to gas, which as a Protoss is very nice, but it's still not the preference for a third. Impact has opted for a hatch first this time. This means he has no interest in... well, he's not worried about any early pressure. And also, he doesn't have any real interest on delaying an expansion or anything like that. It's kind of a gentleman's agreement. They both understand the amount of time it takes to get across the map means they're pretty safe to get that base up early. When it comes to a Protoss, the options for Neeb to potentially attack early on are very limited. They come down to pretty much proxy gates, or maybe a cannon rush. Whereas the options for Impact are things like Zergling rushes or Roach rushes. But once again, the travel distance comes into play. And now as this Overlord comes in, it's going to get a bead on the front, see the Cybercore timing, see the Nexus finished, understand it's a Nexus first. And what's the reaction here? Does he take a third? Does he opt for a bunch of Zerglings and try to pressure? I doubt that's the case. Usually around that 2:30 timing is when you're going out to take a third base. He does have 100 gas banked up, which means more than likely Overlord speed will be the choice to make sure he gets the scouting information. Because this map is just so large, you need to get into that base and get an idea of what he's doing before it shows up. Wait, I take it back. It's a lair. So this is cheat. This is something else. This is kind of how Impact plays. He's a little bit of a... He's not non-standard, but he's alternative standard, if that makes sense. He tries to find those timings like last game, where he didn't really make drones. He made a lot of Banelings, and Neeb was kind of out on the map when he shouldn't have been. And this time, he's just going for a straight lair. Now, queens are continuing to be produced. If he produces another queen, we're looking at a Nidus, but there are no extra gases. So with no extra gases here, it's not going to be Mutalisk, more than likely. Well, I stand corrected. But is this a Nidus? Is really the question. Or is it? He sees the Stargate. This is an important point. He sees the Stargate already. He has 4 gases now. And no third. So, Impact, what's your call? Infestation Pit. An incredibly interesting choice. Is this for Swarm Hosts? I don't think Infestors that early are really going to be worth your while. The Oracle might be able to get a beat on this. It's going to head towards the third, and when he doesn't see one, well, that's going to light off some alarm bells. Is this a Nidus Swarm Host play? Did Neeb see the Nidus? He saw the infestation, but he knows.
Just as I
Thank
deserve.
you.
My reaction is holy hell. Look,
Thank
some
you.
dirty esports just miss
For the
money
dirty
for all the
esports money,
learnings that are
trucker.
going on.
Glad you enjoy. Can I get some dirty esports money for Trucker? Well, to replace some of that he lost. Oh, he gets a tag. He gets a tag, and oh, he still doesn't see it. I mean, you can have a very good idea. You know what this could be. You know what this probably is. But thank you for that Christmas money as well. I will spend that on frivolous things. Like Hearthstone pack. No, I won't. No, I won't buy Hearthstone packs. That won't happen. But like alcohols at places that it costs 12 times what it would cost at Walmart and things like that, obviously. A Nidus Worm is on the way. The third base is not coming up for Neeb. I think he smells something in the water here. It looks like he's thinking about it, and he might even get a beat on it almost immediately. Oh, is the probe... He hasn't seen it yet, but he has a very good idea that this is happening. He knows it's more than likely the Swarm Host Nidus. But Adepts are not really the answer to the Locust here. Will he fight them heads up? He's trying to draw the swoops out, but Impact isn't having any of that. The Phoenixes actually take out these Locusts pretty easily. And surprisingly just negating. Remember, they are light units. And Adepts do a lot of extra damage against light units, and Locusts don't really have that much HP. So with the Glaives, with the Phoenixes, this first attack has been essentially negated. And Impact was really looking to get some momentum there. He's at 45 drones. He's down 12 workers. He needs something. He's gonna try to fly the Locust all the way into the main. The Nidus is not quite scouted out here, though Neeb had an idea of where it could be. If he hears that Nidus and he moves the Phoenixes, just the next level play. If he cuts off this next wave, the momentum is gonna shift insanely far. Oh. He cuts off the Locust wave. Most of these won't make it there. A few lone survivors will make it to the beach. He swoops in. and then gives up on life because life is short if you're a Locust. Oh, a lot of Adepts have shaded across. They do have the glaives done. They get into the main. The Swarm Host will drop some of their Locusts as well. That's a lot of Adepts, and Impact does not have drones to spare. He's down 20 workers, and Neeb is just countering this beautifully. Impact, he's obviously tried this build before, but Neeb figured it out, he sniffed it out, and he's negated several Locust waves. Once again, the Phoenix is in position. There are Swarm Hosts ready to be unloaded, but the Phoenixes are right there to pick him up. He will be able to take down the Nidus Network, the Nidus Worm, but there is a drop on the other side, and the Locust will be coming into the main. Does he have double Nidus Network? No, he just unleashed 2 worms. But finally, he finds an opportunity. He gets into the main base with half the Locust life. He's going to try to kill probes, easily out DPSing the shield battery, bringing it down the next time. The Nexus won't be a casualty. But right now, Impact is in a pretty desperate situation. Yeah, the supply is in favor of Impact. It's 111. It's 111 to 105 supply. But Neeb right now has 63 workers. He's got upgrades on the way. He has plenty of tech and army on the ground. If he keeps negating most of these Locust waves, he's going to be in an incredibly good spot. So, it's a matter of momentum. Impact has a lot of army, and he's trying to get damage done right now, but even though he has all that army, Neeb is doing whatever he can. He's just blocking it left and right. That was the first time damage was done. And Swarm Hosts without their Locusts are like guns without bullets. They're useless. Another Nidus on the opposite side. And remember, each Nidus network costs 100. So he's spending money on these as well. This wave isn't quite scouted out. He will catch some of these roaches, but another Locust wave gets into the main. And if that keeps happening, this could get dicier and dicier. The Locust waves continue in. Just a constant stream of Locusts on either side. But Neeb is taking something of a fourth. This is one of the few games you'll see players actually taking those back bases because neither really has the army on the map to reliably expand forward. Neeb finally does. Neeb finally does. He has enough so the Locust can't really fight here. But Impact, he can't just put Swarm Hosts out there. He will lose his fourth up until, well, essentially now. The supplies are still even, but this is definitely Neeb in the driver's seat at the moment. We have a Robo Bay on the way. A second Robo as well. Colossi are very solid. I mean, they can deal with the Locust, they can deal with Hydralisks. They're not incredible against roaches, but I love this play. I didn't even notice it in the production tab. Tunneling Claws, the Burrow Move Roaches. He's trying to do things in several different angles at once. Another Swarm Host play. He tries to get the Locusts in. There will be no lifts here. They'll be cut off. The Lings on the left side will draw the attention of the army. But the Roaches are in the main. He's burrowed his way in. He sharked his way through. There's no detection. This could be the game changer. He's in every single base, and he's about to unleash the Roaches. There's in the net. He's starting to kill some. We have a Nidus network outside the fourth as well. If he can hit every single base at the same time, Impact having an incredible impact on this game. The shield batteries are doing a great job, but 9 probes have gone down so far. This Nidus is about to scream. He's going to bring him out. A handful of army supplies over here. Neeb already knows this is a threat. 10 probes have gone down, but it's still 60 to 60. He decides with the Phoenixes there, it's not a risk he wants to take. But Impact has bought himself a lot of time and killed workers. He's got to clean up the roach infestation, but right now he doesn't have very efficient exterminators. And another wave of Locusts goes into the main. He's got the option of 2 different Nidus networks. The Roaches are trying to get in. He drops the Locusts on top. The shield batteries are helping out. He actually has to force field out Locusts. Impact starting to really cut into Neeb here. Now, despite all of this, despite all the pressure he's putting on, Neeb is still holding a strong army. His unit composition is good. If at some point he drives this back, all that Impact has are 10 Swarm Hosts and 18 Hydras. If Neeb comes across the map, the Swarm Hosts are not enough to defend. He just does not have enough to kill. If Neeb maxes out with this army, especially if he had some Archons in to soak some of the Locusts, Impact just doesn't have the units he needs to deal with this. He's done a lot of damage. He's done good harass. He's put on a lot of pressure, but those Roaches died. And this is potentially the answer. We have 8 Lurkers on the way. No Hive yet. He might think about it in a moment. But it's now 74 to 60 workers. The Fist of Neeb is gathering up for a mighty blow. He has Colossi. The Templar Archives is about to complete. A 5th base is on the docket here in just a moment. You see is that Impact's taking another one, but I can't imagine Neeb holding back very much longer. Another Nidus, but Neeb sniffs it out. I think he sees it with the Observer, actually. The Locust will be deflected by the Phoenixes. Almost all of them taken down before they can swoop. +2 is finished for Neeb. A lot of Roach Hydra. And the Lurkers, if you don't engage, if they get into the right spot, they can do a lot of damage. But once again, this game's been all about Impact trying to catch Neeb off guard and not quite succeeding. This is a big play, though. That's a lot of Lurkers in a pretty nasty position here. Extended Thermal Lance is not done. He does not outrange the Lurkers. He's actually less range. When they have Extended Thermal Lance, they're equal range to a Lurker. The Colossi, that is. But Impact is actually pushing forward. Neeb didn't have vision with this. A wave of Locust is exhausted. He has one more. The Lurkers, he's flanking around the side. The Lurker's trying to get on top of the army. Is he targeting him down in time? Indeed he is. He lifts the Lurkers into the sky. Their spines can't shoot from there. And Neeb is starting to burn through. The Nidus Network has some more swarm hosts inside. The rest of the army will retreat. But Neeb crushes the forces, eventually finds the opportunity, waits until his moment, brings the Colossi into position, and burns through the Zerg infestation. It's 172 to 155 supply, and Neeb still has all his Colossi. Some Roaches on the other side, but they're an afterthought. And finally, Neeb been on the defensive the entire game. 13 minutes. He's been taking punches, and now it's time to hit back. A handful of Lurkers on the high ground. It is pretty difficult to actually move around this area. The Lurkers do have the range, but the Immortals are punching through. He's lifting several of them. There's only a couple more in the back. A handful of Burrowed Roaches are coming through. The High Templar are LOL. Another Nidus Network on the opposite side. But how do you hold this attack? The Lurkers are actually doing a great job, but the Colossi are burning through. Most of the lifts are gone. The Spire is on the way, but who knows if it'll ever complete. A Locust Wave will be enough. Neeb made a classic mistake of trying to walk up a ramp. If he had swung around to the right side, taken out the 4th, I think Neeb smelled blood in the water. But the Lurkers and the Locusts were able to hold on. So a little bit of a mistake there out of Neeb, but he's still very much so in the lead. He's got +3, +2 on the way against 2-1. He's still got all his Colossi. He has Storm completed. A 5th base is done. This Lurker is on hold fire, so maybe he can get it onto the probes later on, because a single Lurker isn't going to do anything. Very sneaky move, and Impact has been relying on that the entire game. That's a lot of Lurkers, but without the Hive for Vipers to pull the Colossi in, without Corruptors in order to be able to take them down, it's the Colossi who are still standing tall, and Impact who's still desperately searching for options. I don't know about the play with 5 Mutalisks on the way when there are still 5 Phoenixes on the map, but we'll see. Charge is just now finishing. That seems pretty late here. But Impact is holding on. He's still in the game. And I've been saying Neeb has what he needs, but he tried to run up a ramp. A lot of his units got sliced up into a concave of spines, and he got shredded. So he has to sit back, he has to defend. Or at least he has to play safe. The Lurker pops up, finds an opportunity to kill some probes from long range, somehow going through the Nexus, don't question it. The Lurker will be taken down, but did a little bit of delay in mining. The worker counts, I mean, Impact at 66 drones doesn't have that kind of fuck you money right now. He can't build whatever he wants, throw it away, and build it all again. This has to be a very cost-effective army, and with 10 Lurkers, 7 Swarm Hosts, and a couple Vipers, that's exactly what he's going for. He needs to pull the Colossi in. He needs to use the Blinding Clouds. He needs to maximize the effectiveness here. He's got a couple Spore Crawlers to help prevent the lifts on the Lurkers. Where are the Oracles for Revelation? Here we go. The Revelation allows you to reveal those Lurkers before the fight starts and make sure, even if you lose, oh, 1 Colossi gets pulled in. And also it helps take down. Spore Crawlers do hit up, and Colossi are so tall they can be hit in the air, but Neeb punches through the front. Only a handful of Lurkers to match him here. Where are the Locusts? He's going towards Broodlords, but there's no real answer besides a handful of undetected lurkers. A counterattack was brushed aside by Neeb. More storms coming up, the Locust, an afterthought here. There are too many units, they weren't combined with the lurkers themselves. And now just the brute force of Neeb's army is finally coming to bear. Impact will be losing this base. He'll be losing his lurkers, his roaches, his locusts, and the game. And that will be 1-1. Neeb ties it up. Not bad. He takes it back. Impact was 100... That style is relying on Neeb overreacting or underreacting. I mean, I guess that describes everything. But in going for in cutting your economy to go for that quick tech, getting a layer on 2 bases is very fast. In doing that, he put an investment in. That means he needs to get a return on investment. And that means those swarm hosts need to start killing probes, killing army, killing Nexi. But Neeb had the Phoenixes to deflect it. He constantly split his army to minimize damage. And despite the fact Impact kept finding ways to do damage, he never recovered economically to be able to get the army that could actually match Neeb's. At some point, Neeb was going to come across the map, and he was going to come knocking, and Impact needed to have an answer, and he just didn't, because he was so focused on trying to get damage done, because he had to be. That's the summary of what happened there. Neeb playing that pretty textbook, and on top of every angle to be able to eventually win the game. So loud. Game 3 is on Odyssey. Alright. We're back. Game 3. Impact versus Neeb. The Ting semi-finals. Hosted by Base Trade TV. Twitch.tv/Base Trade TV. And if you subscribe, you get replay packs like this one for your own use. But Neeb taking that last game. Now, once again, Impact showing his strength and his weakness. Impact is known as a kind of, like I said, alternative standard. He can play a macro game, but he would rather not. And for example, and by macro game I mean take your bases, get 60-something drones, play defensive. No, he's up in your face. He's doing something different. And once again, we see it here on Odyssey as he's taking the gold base first. So Neeb, when he gets, he'll see there's no expansion at the natural, but he should go in the main, see the pool timing, and as soon as he sees that, he's going to realize what's happening. Now, there are 2 options. One, it could be a proxy hatch. It's not very common, especially on this map, but a proxy hatch to be able to push forward, maybe even with spine crawlers very early. And the second option is this gold base. Alright. So Neeb, he's going to realize, he knows there's no hatch here. Is he going straight to the gold? Yeah. That's the indicator. He's going to figure that out, and then you see he's scouting out, he's looking for proxy hatches right now. These are the 2 options that it could be. He's going to check his own gold just in case, because of course gold and minerals give you that 40% boost. This will be scouted out, and Neeb realizes the situation. He doesn't have to pull probes or chrono out a zealot. It is a hatch first, it's just a gold digger strat. Alright. The drones will be transferred and scouted. Interesting scenario there. A little awkward. He sees that speed is on the way and gas is still being mined. Now, just a professional tip here. Every gas geyser starts with 2,250 gas. When you click on a gas geyser that's been mined, you can see how much is remaining. If they have less than 2,150, they've mined 100 gas, and they can be going for Zergling speed, or a lair, or anything else if you're talking about a Terran or a Protoss. Just a little something to check, and be able to realize how much gas, what potential they have, and whether you have to be worried about anything. Alright. As soon as Neeb left, Impact pulled off a gas. This was entirely to feed Neeb misinformation. Impact wanted Neeb to think that he was going to go for some tech behind this, maybe Banelings, or a quick lair again. But as soon as the probe left and was driven away by the Lings, he pulls off a gas to maximize his minerals and takes a third. Once again, Impact going for that kind of off-center play. Neeb, on the other hand, he should be able to scout this base. And if he does, that's a lot of... Yeah, he sees it. That's a lot of information. Somehow 2 Lings got in here. Well, okay, they just walked in. I guess that's one way to do it. Alright. A couple Zerglings make it into the main. He can't really afford to shade this Adept away right now. Until the other one finishes. The Ling should be taken out by probes. He can't afford to really abandon the front here. Yeah, that's nothing he can do. So right now, Neeb doesn't have to be too worried about this. In making these Zerglings, Impact has a lower drone count. Now he has access to the gold base. A gold base, every return from the drones, you return 7 minerals instead of 5. That's a 40% increase. So essentially, it allows you to mine with 40% less workers. Now this means you mine out of minerals faster. And most gold bases only have 6 mineral patches. So the total mining of a gold base is equal to that of a blue base, but you can do it with less workers, and that's the big advantage. You get a boost early on. Alright. You see Zerg players going for the gold base the most because of the way Zerg works. You have things like Speedlings. It's a lot harder for a Protoss player to defend an isolated base because they need to be building a wall and defending units and keeping everything together, whereas Zerg is trying to pick things apart a lot of the time, especially when you're going for this Ling Bane type of style. That Impact is. And he's going for a 4th hatchery. He's going to have access to a lot of larvae. He has +1 attack, melee attack on the way, and no lair. So this is a lot of Ling Bane aggression that should be coming out here. I take it back. He started the lair. And he put it at the gold base. Now, it's a little more vulnerable here, but it's also probably less likely to be scouted. A little walling created by Neeb. Make it so those Zerglings can't get the surface area they need. Alright. And more drones on the way. At this point, that Ling Bane idea out of Impact... I mean, he's still making a lot of Lings, but he's at 50 drones. And this is enough to support these 4 hatcheries. He's got a Roach Warren on the way. It looks like it's going to be... I'm not sure if he's going to make Banelings now, or if he's just going to follow up with the Roaches. But that's a lot of Zerglings on the map now. 34. Glaives are almost done. Without Banelings, he's just not going to be able to fight this. The Adepts will cancel the Shade. These Lings did a good job of that. A Stasis Ward is triggered, actually walling off the Queens and delaying some of the mining. And he does get a scout on all of the tech here. So Neeb now knows there's a Roach Warren, a Baneling Nest, and a lair. There's Bane Speed. A Hydralisk Den is created. The Roach Warren might have been just for the eventual counterattack, and, well, he really should have maybe some Roaches. No, just Banelings here. Those are fine. But Impact realizing that any sort of all-in timing probably isn't going to be on the table. The Lings and Banes will scramble. They don't have creep all the way here. He will be able to shade out before the Banelings connect. Shades all the way into the main here. And Glaives are done. So without the Banelings, the damage is just not going to happen here. He needs the Banes to connect. And actually, Neeb, pretty uncharacteristic mistake there. But those Banelings connected on almost all the Adepts. He could have minimized that a little better, but they kind of tripped over themselves. And that means they're going to get cleaned up. 5 or 6 drone kills is the total. Could have been more. That was looking like a very strong attack out of Neeb, but Impact will hold on. He still has 4 bases, but he's down 20 workers. And Neeb is going for a 4th base. And there's nothing that can really... Now, here's the problem. There's nothing Impact can do that can hurt Neeb right now. There are sentries, there are shield batteries, there's a good Sim City, a good wall. And there's just no way to really put on pressure with just Zerglings. So Impact, realizing that, is just droning up. And I think he'll make even more drones here if he sees those sentries. He's making a handful of Hydras, but Neeb still has a little bit. He doesn't have Blank or Charge. He doesn't have 1-1. He doesn't have that 4th base secured, and he doesn't have additional gates. So it's going to be another minute or so till Neeb really has the confidence to move out. You don't want to move out with 6 sentries and 3 stalkers. But more gates will create a wall over here on the northern side on this gold and just completely shut down the Zerglings unless they run all the way around. What is Impact's play here? Does he just keep making Hydras? He has 60 drones. And now we saw this before in Game 1. In Game 1. Where Neeb, he went a little bit too far out on the map and Hydraling Bane kind of bit off large chunks of his army. And he ended up losing just because he just simply didn't have enough units. But in that game, Neeb didn't have a 4th base up safely. He didn't pretty much freely get his upgrades on his tech. He didn't pressure the Zerg player into having a low drone count. So right now, Neeb is much better off, and he has a gold base just now coming online while Impact is starting to mine out of his. A Robo Bay. 2 Robos on the way. Are we actually looking at Colossi here as the counter to Hydraling Bay? That's interesting. Colossi or Archons. We haven't seen Colossi very often lately. But with the new patch, they now do additional damage to light. They do less to armored, so not as great of a counter to roaches or marauders or anything like that. But against Hydralings and Banes, the only thing they really share is light. Now Impact at 150 supply. There are 2 Colossi on the way. If those come out, this army becomes infinitely stronger. He already has the force fields to buy time to control how this fight is taken. If Impact can get a 3-sided surround, if he takes it from more than one angle, well, that's pretty much the only way to fight here. But Neeb is continuing to position. He's continuing to posture. He has vision of all these angles. He has the watchtower. Lings will counterattack on the side, but Stalker's already there to deflect. An army is trying to come in from the back. Force fields come out. Maybe not perfect here. The Colossi aren't done yet. Neeb is getting caught between Hydras on either side. Does he have the army he needs right now? There is no charge on these charge lots. The Immortals are falling. This is a good engagement for Impact, but not good enough. As the army is consolidated, all the Immortals go down, but the Colossi come out. And Neeb is now carrying to the other side of the map. He traded. And when you're trading, when you're up workers with a gold base as a Protoss, any trade is a good one. As the Colossi come out. Impact does have a 5th, but he doesn't have a Spire. He does have a Spire. Alright. And the Corruptors are on the way. The only real way to deal with these Colossi, the Hydras, they just take... Anything on the ground takes too much damage. You can't close the distance. He needs the Corruptors. They're pretty tanky. They take DPS away from the ground army, and they can snipe off the Colossi. Alright, 10 Corruptors on the way. We're looking at Hydraling Bane Corruptor. We're back in Wings of Liberty. And Impact has been allowed to go for a little while. We should see a Dark Shrine. Well, we have a Templar Archives, but a Dark Shrine soon. Charge is done. Neeb making a Warp Prism. That Warp Prism is a key point in actually attacking your opponent. If he moves out now, he's liable to be counterattacked. The Warp Prism allows him to tie some of Impact's units up at home in a certain location. So that way he's safe to actually attack with his main army. 4 Zealots inside the Prism will be scouted out by the casual Overlords. 13 Zealots are being warped in. He has 13 gates. And Neeb is now maxed. Some Corruptors being sniped off. There are only 3 Colossi. The Lings getting in using hold position to maximize their damage. Only getting a couple probes, really, if any. The Zealots do have 3-3. The Warp Prism makes it into the main. The Corruptors will chase it down. If he doesn't get a warp in, it's a bit of a waste. But now he's pulled the army back. He's pulled it out of position, and now Impact is on the back foot. The Warp Prism is actually granted reprieve. Oh, he's going to regret that. The fact that that Warp Prism lived, that could decide the game right now. Of course, he can't warp in because he has too many units. He's maxed out at 200 supply. This Warp Prism should not have been allowed to live. The army right now of Neeb is incredibly strong. He's even got a fleet beacon on the way. And he can just throw away Zealots and Adepts. He doesn't want Adepts anymore. He wants Templar. He wants Archons. He definitely wants Templar. I'll agree to that much. So Zealots and everything else, they're just throwaway units. He has 2,500 minerals. Another warping of Zealots. And another counterattack. And these zealots have 3-3. They're not pushovers. He just wants a stronger army. In fact, he might actually have too many probes as well, because he's starting to mine out of his main and his net. Now, the Templar, they will have Storm in just a moment. This, a mothership is on the way. The ultimate late-game unit. The Storms come out. Most of the Banelings go down before even getting close. The Colossi are actually being sniped off, but there are still Storms on the deck. He's waiting for energy on some more of these Templar. Remember, the longer this fight goes on, the more Neeb can warp in. There's another Zealot counterattack on the 5th. There was no defense there. This is the only fresh mining base that Impact has. The army is forced to pull back, but what's the follow-up here? Neeb is looking unbreakable. He's still got a dozen Templar. He's got Stalkers with 3-3. He has unlimited warp-ins. He has money in the bank. He's got another base. There are a handful of Banelings. He's trying to ration them out. But the Storms, he can afford to use them whenever he wants. These Zealots have almost finished off the base. He transferred drones down for unknown reasons. A surround comes out, but who is the surrounder? Archons are morphed. The Banes will crash against them. The 5th base was taken out. Impact trying to take the northern side, but Neeb just continually pushing forward. 185 to 100 supply. This is over. Yeah, Impact not having any more of that. When you go for... It just never felt like Impact. In that game, Neeb just sat back. He chilled. He didn't bother with trying to do any sort of critical damage. He just macroed up, and Impact kept trying to find an angle to get damage done, but he never did. And there was one point out here where Neeb, his army got caught, but he had already built up Colossi on the way, enough gateways, he already had a gold base. So any trades were going to be in Neeb's favor. Impact needed to find a way to get the army out of position and win the game, and he never did it. Because he was always just down on economy, because he was trying to find that angle. Alright, so since nobody knows how to abide by the chat rules, this next game will be an emote-only mode. It's either that or ban. Alright. And we're back. Wait, let me get the score updated here. Okay, it's on this one. Alright, in the top right. It is Impact. Once again, can he find the build he needs? It just feels like Neeb is, He's too solid. The first game, Impact was able to pick up a win. Neeb looked a little shaky, a bit out of position, a bit greedy. But the last two games, Neeb has just held on against everything Impact threw at him, and he threw it back 4 times as hard. So Neeb up 2-1 in this best of 5. It could all end on Blackpink. Created by Avex. Of course, featuring... It's some sort of K-pop. Now, since I sexually identify as a Korean pro gamer, I should know all of the K-pop bands, but unfortunately, I'm not as knowledgeable as I should be. It is going to be a hatch first, not an Impact. And Neeb on the other side just going for the Gateway Expo. I don't blame him. At this point, Impact is very liable to throw something sideways out at you. A proxy hatch, maybe a pull first. Now this game, no, he hasn't done that. It's a hatch first with a gas pool behind. This is the bread and butter. This is the textbook right now, essentially. And Neeb just doing a little bit of mining micro. interrupting some of these mineral patches, being very cute about it. There's not much else to do at this point in the game. Alright. So, this is definitely a map where we've seen Neeb go Stargate in almost every game, actually. I think Neeb has opened up Stargate in every game. Getting access to those oracles, the Swiss Army knife of Protoss. They can do damage. They can have defensive or offensive stasis wards. Revelation keeps track of an army incredibly effectively. So having a couple oracles almost never hurts in the right hands. Alright, there's the choice once again. Like clockwork, Neeb throws down the Stargate. The first adept will go across the scout. He's going to be looking for a third base more than likely. Is Impact going to have one? Looks like that's a yes. So nothing crazy out of Impact here. He's actually what looks to be, I guess you could say, the most standard build right now. Getting a third base, getting speed, maybe have Overlord speed behind, but otherwise, everything is on point. 8 more lings on the way. So I take it all back. He made a Baneling nest and he's continuing to mine gas. He really wants to make sure this adept does not get in to see the Baneling nest. That is an important point. And Impact is going to try to find an angle to get damage done. He realizes by the time he hit the gateway, it's likely to be a Stargate. I mean, Neeb has gone for a Stargate every game. He's about to see it here. And it really depends on the oracles. It depends. Do you have the oracles at home so you can defend? Or are they going across the map where the Lings and Banes are coming up? There are no shield batteries at the front. There are only a handful of adepts. Is Neeb starting to figure out what this is? He saw a lot of the Zergling count. The Banelings are on the way. He doesn't know about the Baneling nest. He has no vision of that. The Oracle is going across the map. Without a shield battery here, there's no warp gate. That is a lot of Banelings. And the Zerglings have... Oh, okay. Neeb has to be thinking now. A second Oracle is on the way, but the Banelings are already coming up. They can kill 2 adepts at once. Looks like he wanted a shield battery. He will minimize the damage. There's the wall. He doesn't quite have... He does! But he breaks through seconds later. The Banelings are used. The warp gate will be canceled. The Baneling connects with all the probes. It's a disaster. Every probe will die at the natural. The oracles come back, but they're tired and they're out of energy. It's looking like Impact might have found the way. He's still down on workers, but Neeb will tap out. He knows there's nothing left to counter these Zerglings. He doesn't have warp gate. He can't build any units. He doesn't have any more oracles. He's about to lose all his probes, and he gets out of there. We're going to the final match. I guess quick and dirty. Classic Impact. Alright, we're gonna decide this match under the sea. On Abyssal Reef. What are the chat rules for these kind of games? The general chat rule is talk about the games. Is about it. Because if you're not, you're probably just going to get banned. Alright. Alright. On the bottom right, Impact. Once again, both of his, just a very timing-oriented player. A lot like True from Psystorm. Whereas Neeb is an incredibly stable player, but obviously has weaknesses, and Impact has been able to find him a couple times so far. It looks like it's going to be a hatch first, but we saw last time, just because he makes a hatch first doesn't mean he can't come up with some sort of... There's a difference between cheese and an all-in. I mean, there are plenty of both. Cheese is a strategy that relies on your opponent either not having information or having misinformation, essentially not knowing that a certain build or certain attack is coming. An all-in is an attack that they can know what's coming, but it doesn't significantly reduce the effectiveness. Like, for example, if Neeb knew for 30 seconds that a Baneling bust was coming, he can get a couple shield batteries, he can wall off, he can chrono boost warp gate, and he takes next to no damage. But he didn't. It broke through with a few seconds to spare, and that's a cheese. On the other hand, if it had been some sort of Ravager push, then if you're going Stargate early on, you don't necessarily have everything you need right off the bat to deal with it. So even if that is scouted, there's still some time where it can do damage depending on the builds early on. Alright. Neeb is hard walling off the front. Of course, there's still access to go around the side, but it takes a long while. And this will allow him to hold it down. Probe gets in. Actually, a bit of a mistake. The probe's not going to get out. And he will scout the speed and the fact that 2 are still mining gas. Will he pull another one off gas here? Or is this another, like, quick layer play? Because he was forced into taking the outer third. Which is a bit uncomfortable against especially Adepts early on. But it does look like Impact has every intention to take a third base. And 5 out of 5. 5 games in a row we've been playing. And 5 games in a row, Neeb has gone for a Stargate. And once he's relying on these Oracles, he got a bead. There could be another Baneling bust coming, but this map is a lot harder to really break through because of how the ramp works. It's a lot more time, it's a lot easier to scout. So we shouldn't be seeing a Baneling bust after this. And that's also, we know that, because Overlord speed is on the way, and you don't go Overlord speed if you're doing a super quick cheese. Unfortunately here, there are some unprotected drones, and he's at the very least going to be able to stop them from mining, if not kill some of them. Link speed is done. Neeb maybe got a little greedy with the Adept, and it looks like he'll just barely make it out. Right before the Lings were able to close the jaws. We'll see if he completes that Spore. I mean, might as well have a Spore Crawler, right? An Oracle's coming. Well, the Adept not going to make it home. Wow, that was a painful... Wow! Painful death there. But Impact has pretty much full knowledge of what's happening. There is a shield battery at the back. Neeb this time showing a little bit more respect to Impact and realizing how dangerous he can be, especially now that we're on Game 5. Abyssal Reef, if time goes on, 3rd and 4th bases for Protoss are not too hard to take. There are limited attack angles. It's difficult to get any sort of surround. So if Neeb can get a 3rd and a 4th, we've seen every time if Neeb's allowed to get a solid economy and a solid army, he's very difficult to beat. Impact, on the other hand, his specialty is finding those timings. So we'll have to see. Right now, Neeb has that economy. He does have the ability to take a 3rd, and he's going to go pretty much untouched for a while yet. Thank you for that, Firefrog. 5 more drones on the way. He's going to opt for the +1 melee. No quick lair here. The Queen going to be targeted down. It looks like he will dive onto the Spore Crawler to finish it off. Maybe a couple drones on the way out. A little bit of hull damage on one Oracle, but a Queen's very well worth it. A Ling drop has slipped into the main, and maybe the only place it could have slipped in. And remember, he has that Overlord speed. He does have the warp gates done. He's not supply blocked warps in a single Adept. He doesn't have the money for more. How many probes will go down? 1. 1 probe has died so far. So this did very, very little. There is a counterattack on the left side as well. Looks like Impact is trying to minimize the amount of Zerglings he's making, because he needs those drones. He knows Neeb is going for a 3rd. He's at 45 probes, and he shows no signs of stopping. Another round of Lings is coming up. A handful of Adepts and the Oracles are enough to drop this back, and Impact is being deflected on every side. The Dropper Lord was taken out by a single Phoenix. This is all that Neeb has invested in, and that's all he needs to. We do have a shield battery to protect the mineral line. A lot of Lings being produced. +1 attack is nearly done. But a couple sentries in these Adepts, these Lings shouldn't do very much. Oracle's in the main. Trying to trade for some queens here. He's actually going to get a stasis ward. Impact will move away at the last second. Triggered on a couple. Another stasis ward as well. He won't be actually paying attention to this one. So these drones aren't money, and they have to be sent back to it as well. Once again, Neeb has held on. He's gotten a third base. He's got a Twilight Robo. 58 probes. And I don't know how he does it, but he's once again up 12 workers. No fourth base. The lair is just now finishing, and despite it seeming to be very little happening, Neeb is in a very comfortable position. You can't attack up this ramp, and attacking into this base is also a difficult option. A Spire is on the way. Desperate times call for desperate measures. If this is scouted, he can just build like 4 or 5 Phoenixes. Mutas will do nothing. If he goes for Corruptors, they will do nothing. So right now, Impact is gambling. He's got a Hydralisk Den on the way. Did he make it? He made it in a very obvious location, too. This is intentional. He's making the Hydralisk Den right in the front, right where an Oracle is likely to see it or drop a Revelation. And he's trying to make Neeb think, yeah, this is what's up. This is what's happening. Look at this. Look at my Hydra Den. This is what I'm doing. We'll see if Neeb takes the bait, because if he doesn't make any Stalkers, he is getting Blink, and he doesn't make any Phoenixes. The Oracles come in, get a couple more kills. They're going to go into the main. Impact really doesn't want him to see this. Oh, it's right there. He sees it! But did he see it? It was only for a very split second. Was he paying attention? Another Dropper Lord is coming in, this one with Banelings. But that was only a tiny split second, and even Neeb might have missed that. If he looks back, he'll probably realize what it is, but he might have missed it. He's not really warping on any Stalkers. He's building Colossi, which are still not a bad option. The drop is coming in. The Banelings drop onto the probes. 8 probes go down. He's able to kill a couple more off. 10, double digits. Not sure what happened there, but 68 to 66 workers. 3 mutas on the way. That's it. That's all he can really afford. Okay, he's going up to 5. 5 is enough to one-shot probes. Neeb does not seem to be reacting to the fact mutas are an option, but of course 5 mutas never really hurt anybody that badly, unless they were below Diamond League. He's just building up that Colossi force, but there are lurkers on the way. These Bane drops are a big threat. If Neeb loses another 10 probes, we got a bigger, much more dangerous game on the hands. Almost catching. He does have Baneling speed, but he only has +1 attack. With +2 attack, Baneling's one-shot probes. That's a big part of this. But with just the +1, it takes 2 hits. There are cannons on the way. It does seem like he realizes this. But Neeb has 4 bases. He has 72. He has 72 probes. Besides, well, ignoring this one. And right now, he is building up the Death Ball. Impact is looking for options. He's looking for damage. Once again, he's trying to keep Neeb on the back foot. But Neeb has quite a spring in his step, and pretty soon, once he gets another Colossus, we should be seeing Storm in a moment. And once we see 150, 160 army supply and a Warp Prism,
looks like Neeb has
Death Ball.
now.
Thank you, Airfell. 3 Archons on the way. Lurker Den is complete. He's just now building the Hydras, though. He's building Lurkers with all of them. This Neeb army is bearing down. Impact feels it right now. It might not be there yet, but he feels it. He knows what's coming at him. And can he actually defend this? Because Neeb has 2-1 upgrades. He's fighting into Lurkers, which, especially in low numbers, are just not going to cut it. Impact has Mutas as part of his army supply, which obviously cannot fight. He's looking for an opportunity. A Phoenix will catch him. Some cannons are already there. The creep spread is being cleared up. Neeb, he made a mistake of going up a ramp before. The Lings, caught by a Stasis Ward, which means no counterattack damage is on the table. Another Baneling drop is loaded up. Impact desperately trying to scramble to defend. Neeb blinks forward, picks off one of the Lurkers. There's only 2 Lurkers there. Does he have detection? He has an Observer with this. Alright, the Lings will be cut off. He's trying to go up the ramp, but the Lurkers are holding this down here. Maybe a bit of a mistake. The Colossus taking a lot of damage. There are Queens to try to hold this down. He blinks into the Lurkers. Possibly a mistake. Where is the Observer? The Observer out of position here. Neeb doesn't have the detection. A Baneling drop comes in, kills 8 probes. 20 drones have gone down thus far. I'm not sure what happened on top of that, but Neeb is just slicing through, cutting the army up into little bite-sized Zerg pieces. The Observer lives with 5 HP. The Lurkers will hold on to the 3rd, but the Natural is being gutted. Neeb up 175 to 110 supply. He still has 78 probes. Once again, there's a revelation on these Lurkers. He can see them when they try to get close. He blasts through, and it looks like Neeb, he was allowed to get 3 bases, allowed to get 4, and allowed to bash right through the front. The drones are off the line, and that's never a good sign. 33, 34, 35 drones, and it looks like Neeb, not easily, not quickly, will be taking the series. 3-2. But Neeb there, like, Impact kept looking for angles of damage, and for another game, Neeb just shut him down. The Bane drop did a little bit, but he had already spent a lot of Zerglings earlier trying to get something done. He did a Ling drop that did nothing. He had his 3rd base was delayed, his drone count was low. Neeb was obviously the more solid player there, even though Impact was able to get some games. But solid. Yeah. I go Oracle first for scouting instead of an Observer. An Oracle is everything you could ever want. It helps you defend. It helps you detect. It helps you attack. Oracles do everything. If you just go Observers, you can observe the fact he has a bunch of Zerglings stopping you from taking a 3rd base. For some reason, there's a 6th replay here, and I'm not sure why. But there's another replay in this file. I don't know why. Maybe it's a best of 7? Which is a spoiler, then. That might be it. So, spoilers, Neeb wins. So we're gonna... Since I just spoiled the ending, we're gonna do a Neeb breakdown. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look through the eyes of the American hero Neeb. And I'm gonna try to describe what he's doing and why he's doing it. Now, obviously, I don't know Neeb, but I like to think I'm pretty okay at the game. So we're gonna do a breakdown for this last game, which Neeb more than likely wins if I'm reading this correctly, alright? I'll be right back. One moment. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy. If you haven't yet, I'll be right back just a couple moments. If you haven't yet subbed on YouTube, we're at 65,036 YouTube subs. Can we get to 65,050? And then I'll post this on YouTube. I mean, I probably was gonna do that anyways, but some sort of incentive. Use the YouTube command. I'll be right back just real quick. I'm on YouTube. We have 1832 subs on okay. Alright. We'll take a look here. We're not listening to in-game music while we're doing this. So, we're looking to see why Neeb is so solid. Maybe I can learn something, because I don't usually open up Stargate because I suck at micro. But Neeb really likes the Stargate. Every single game, 5 games in a row, Neeb has gone for the Stargate. And we got the wall off at the front. It looks like he set up his camera locations as well. Alright, railing the probe out, and he's probably going to scout off of that. What? What are you doing? Where are you going? A Nexus first. Okay. That was just a scouting probe. So the idea here, he's going to have the Nexus started before the probe scouts, right? So he's not trying to scout before any sort of cheese can come up. He's just going to get the Nexus and then figure out how to react, I guess. Is that... Yeah. He would have sent the probe out quicker if he wasn't going to do that. Okay, Nexus first. Now this is... It's greedy, obviously. He sees the hatch at a normal timing for a hatch first. Okay, what... Neeb! He's walled off. You could see the tilt there. He was walled in by the by the eggs. The eggs have unit collision. So he tried to just... He's like, well, I should just be able to get out. He got trapped in by 2 eggs and 2 drones. And he was too lazy to mineral walk to the net. I think that's quite... that's the exact definition of a feels bad man right there. Oh my god. Oh, and now he doesn't get to see... Well, he doesn't get a beat on how many links he could potentially produce. An important thing is when the pool's finishing, you can get info like... Does he still have 3 larvae when the pool's finishing? Because a top-level Zerg doesn't save up 3 larvae unless they're going to make links, right? But now that probe is dead. It's not a huge deal, but it doesn't help. So. Alright. He's setting up his wall here. Now, the idea... I believe 1 gateway will wall this off. Is that true? Or is this a hard wall? I think 1 gateway will wall that off. And he also makes it inwards, so that way the surface area of units is reduced. Instead of just having... Just in general, you want to minimize surface area, right? So Zerglings and roaches and anything like that can't attack you as easily. So he's kind of drawing them in with just how that's laid out. And a Zealot? Okay, we're making a Zealot early. Does he get a second gate? Or does he build the Stargate in the wall? And a Stargate. I'm interested... So, this pylon placement up here, I'm pretty sure this is almost certainly to scout for overlords for Ling Drop. Because one of the big weaknesses of going Stargate, especially off a Nexus first, is by the time your Oracle comes out, he could have speed and a Dropper Lord in your base. Like, that's a possibility. Even if you chrono the Oracle, it's just like speed's going to be done before the Stargate is. So, that pylon there is just a scout. He's looking forward, like... He knows he's going to have a wall at the front, which should happen in just a moment. And an Adept. But a Dropper Lord comes in while he's building an Oracle and all he has is 1 Adept. That's going to be a bad time. Even if you can kill the Lings with the Oracle, which isn't a guarantee because they could go back into the Overlord, then you wasted your energy and you get no use out of it. So... And once again, he's putting these outside pylons to be able to preemptively scout for these threats. Adding on another gas. So this is his Nexus first build. I keep selecting things. Right. He uses the default announcer, by the way. No fancy announcer packs for Neeb. Let's see what Impact uses. I'm not hearing anything. Also, there was a second Stargate, by the way. Does he just play perfectly so the announcer never does anything? I don't... Like... He's only spending the exact amount of minerals he has. There's no notifications of anything. I don't... Does he just not have an announcer pack? That's so weird. Oh yeah, it's default. Oh my god, I'm fucking deaf. I don't know. It's so... No, I'm not... It's so ingrained in my brain that I don't even hear it sometimes. Like, unless I'm actually playing, I don't even hear it, because it's just like, I'm used to hearing those things in the background. So we're going back to Neeb. He went for 2-star. So this is a different build. It's a different build than he's done at all so far. He's making 1 Void Ray. I assume that's 1 to help defend and 2 to deal with Overlords. And he should be making just Oracles after this. Alright. Queens push the Oracle away. Yeah, and Oracles are on the way. Getting the 3rd. He doesn't have the minerals quite yet. So he's just doing the Moracle build. This is not... You know what? I should learn how to do... I don't play this strat very often. So... I wish he had just done his standard build. But it's always... like, if Neeb's doing it, it's probably pretty good. He's got 1 Oracle on a hotkey. He's got 2 Adepts on a hotkey, and everything else he's using his mouse to control. And now he just hotkeyed those in, shift click. There's a Nidus network on the way. Did he see it? Once again, Impact is just like, fuck it. YOLO. I mean, it could work. He's brought the Oracles across. Is there a Nidus? I mean, he can get a Nidus in. He has speed overlords. Ooh, Neeb got... Okay, he's not supply bot that hard. You gotta think, like, what? That's a lot of queens. He's gonna check for the drone count here. Yeah, he knows. He should know right now. That's not enough drones, and he sees it in the main. So what do we do? Battery, battery. More batteries. Just keep building batteries. And that's... Both his Nidus are there. I mean, both his Stargates are there, so that's a problem. Alright. So when does Neeb choose to fight? He's making more gates. Stasis wards. So no real damage has been done yet. Only superficial damage. He can go back into the batteries here. And he's just holding on to the Oracles until the last possible second. The transfuses on either side. This is a long-winded all-in. Trying to get in battery range. This is... I think Neeb has this on lock. Like, once the Oracles have enough energy. The Queens are almost out of energy. He's drawing... Oh! And the Stasis! He drew out the Queen energy. He waited for the Queens to run out of energy, and he drew them into the Stasis. If he hadn't done both of those things, I think the Oracles die and the Roaches run over the Stalkers. That was I believe the word immaculate comes to mind here. That was a near-perfect defense. He gave up his Stargates, he gave up several units until the last possible second. He got as much of the Queen energy gone as possible. Another Nidus. He knows where it's coming from. He recalls to the base! Now that's a little... Oh, that recall. So how does the... Wait, I want to see that. So how does recall work? Do they just randomly... Does where... Like, if you target the recall and they're in the top left of the recall radius, do they spawn in the top left of the Nexus? Or does it just push them around the Nexus? I want to see how that recall worked again. Because maybe, like, you recall and the radius is this big... And you catch all the units, but you want them, obviously, not to be in front of your enemy. It's hard to tell where he actually recalled because he just nailed, like, it doesn't show anything but where he hit it, but... Okay, I'm gonna go to the everyone cam for a second. It seems like based on where you, activate the recall, like, where in the radius of the recall, which is, like, that large, it's pretty large, that's where they spawn around the Nexus, like, when they come back. I don't know if that was intentional out of Neeb, but it does seem like that is the case. He wants to try to take out the Nidus, but he doesn't want to lose DPS on the Roaches either. That Immortal is going to really turn this tide. Excuse me. And now Neeb's way ahead again. He's deflected all this. He's gonna go look for overlords on the northern side. But once again, like, from here he just makes Immortal Charge Lot and then eventually Archon. I don't know if he even has Blink done. Does he have Blink done? He has Blink done. So we can kind of just fight. GG. I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna test the recall. I need to go where Neeb has enough units, but before he recalls. Alright. I'm the Neeb now. Alright. So I'm gonna intentionally recall, like, on the very corner of the radius. Actually, we'll test it like this. I'm gonna try to hit, and they should spawn in the bottom right. So that is how it works. It does matter. How you recall, especially with smaller armies, does matter when it comes to defending bases. Especially if you're recalling into a sticky situation. Interesting. I mean, that's a pretty niche scenario. Niche. Calculated. Yeah, calculated. You know what? I bet it was. I'm not gonna give him less credit than he deserves. It might have just been like, oh, recall these units, but there's a good chance it was like, all right, make sure I hit the recall so the Stalkers don't die in the front line. I'd say the best Protoss in the world right now is probably Zest with the new patch. From what I've seen of him, he knows what he's doing now. Like, he is on point. Zest has always been close to the #1 in the world.